So he
When
backed back once
he
she parked.
when she see her parking, you know, it happens in less than a minute. He's coming out. Look, you're gonna see him. It spoke with her something, and then he comes out of the car. And when he start with her, with your daughter. You see, it's coming out.
He shot her, shot my
Lower,
brother,
and then
and my sister was running, so he shot my sister.
And you know what?
Then he shoots in the car again at her.
Yeah, and then
Because his car was rolling and he had to get in.
That's the only way he drive away.
On February 21st, 2021, in Chicago's South Side, a young mother was ambushed and shot 11 times in broad daylight. This is the story of her unimaginable ordeal and miraculous survival. Lasonya Agee was only 25 years old, a hard-working mother with a bright future ahead of her. She grew up in Chicago, a city full of energy and life, but also a city that tested her resilience. After losing her mother at a young age, Lasonya was raised by her grandmother, who became her rock. Her uncle also played a key role in her life, offering the support and guidance she needed to navigate the challenges of growing up without her mom. Despite these early hardships, Lasonya didn't let tragedy define her. She had a strength that inspired those around her, a determination to push forward and create a better life. Lasonya worked as a mail carrier for the United States Postal Service. She took pride in her job, walking the streets of Chicago, delivering letters and packages with a friendly smile that people in her community had come to recognize. Rain or shine, she showed up every day with the same dedication and warmth that reflected her caring nature. Her family was her greatest motivation, but above all, it was her son who gave her life true meaning. He was her world, her reason for waking up every morning and working hard. Lasonya loved being a mom. From the moment she held her baby boy in her arms, she knew she would do whatever it took to protect him and give him the best life possible. Her relationship with Larry Sistruk, the father of her child, started like many love stories do. The two met through mutual friends, and things quickly escalated from casual dates to something more serious. In the beginning, Larry seemed like a good guy, charming, attentive, and always ready to shower her with affection. He was the kind of man who made promises about a future together, one where they'd build a happy home and raise their son in love. For a while, it felt like things were finally falling into place for Lasonya. She believed she had found her partner, someone she could rely on. But the reality of their relationship would take a dark turn after the birth of their son. Larry changed almost overnight. The once loving boyfriend became distant, cold, and controlling. His temper flared over the smallest things, and his once charming personality was replaced by anger and manipulation. What began as minor arguments quickly escalated into something much more dangerous. At first, Lasonya tried to make it work. She hoped it was just a rough patch, that maybe Larry was stressed or struggling to adjust to life as a father. She didn't want to give up on her family. But it wasn't long before she realized this wasn't a phase. It was who Larry had become. His controlling behavior only grew worse, and with every passing day, she felt more trapped and isolated. Lasonya, however, wasn't the type to give up easily. She knew she had to protect herself and her son. After months of living in fear and uncertainty, she made the courageous decision to leave Larry. She packed her things, took her son, and walked away from the toxic relationship that had consumed her life. It wasn't an easy choice, but it was one she knew she had to make for her safety and her child's future. But walking away from someone like Larry wasn't as simple as it seemed. His obsession with Lasonya didn't end when their relationship did. If anything, it grew stronger. He refused to accept that she had moved on. He stalked her, harassed her, and ignored her pleas to stay away. No matter how many boundaries she set, Larry found ways to cross them. Her life became a constant battle to protect herself and her son. She sought help. She took legal steps to keep Larry away, hoping that a restraining order would stop him. For a brief moment, she thought she could finally breathe again, that she could finally start building a life free from fear. But Larry's obsession wouldn't be stopped so easily. His anger reached a boiling point, and what followed was a brutal act of violence that shocked everyone who knew Lasonya. A young mother with her whole life ahead of her, a woman who had fought so hard to protect her child, would soon face an unimaginable nightmare, one that no one saw coming, but one that would change her life forever. But before then, let's take you down the lane of how their relationship was before he decided to end it all. Lasonya's journey into darkness began quietly, almost unnoticed. What started as a small disagreement after the birth of her son in 2017 gradually escalated into a nightmare. The abuse wasn't immediate or obvious at first, but it grew steadily over time until it consumed her life. By the time she realized what was happening, it was already too late. She was trapped in a cycle of manipulation, violence, and fear. Lasonya didn't have much family to lean on. Her mother had passed away when she was a child, leaving her with limited support. Larry, the father of her child, saw her vulnerability and exploited it mercilessly. Whenever she tried to break free, he found a way to pull her back. He used threats and force, not only against her but also against the people she loved. Determined to protect her son and build a better life, Lasonya found the strength to move into her own apartment without telling him. She believed this could be her fresh start, but it didn't take long for Larry to find her. He broke the restraining order and showed up at her door unannounced, refusing to leave even when the police arrived. He resisted arrest, and the very next day, he hid inside her utility closet with a gun, waiting to confront her. Furious that she had signed a lease without him, he began smashing every window in the apartment. Fearing for their safety, her landlord asked her to leave, refusing to help her relocate out of fear that the violence would follow her. Her situation seems out of control. With nowhere else to go, Larry forced her to return to him. The abuse became unbearable. Black eyes and bruises became part of her daily reality. Despite the escalating violence, she continued to seek help, filing police reports and begging for protection. None of it seemed to matter. Larry always found a way to intimidate her, keeping her trapped in a world of fear. Lasonya's job at the United States Postal Service became her only lifeline. She worked tirelessly to save money and rebuild her life. But Larry's presence loomed over every aspect of her existence. He would show up at her workplace, circling the building while her co-workers escorted her to her car for safety. She tried to hide the car she bought with her hard-earned savings, but he eventually discovered it by going through her phone. The discovery led to another fight. He crashed her car into a pole, shattered the windows, and chased her with a bat. Worse still, he took their son and kept him hidden from her until she agreed to return. Lasonya reported the incident to the police, but because he was the child's father, they said there was nothing they could do. They advised her to take him to court and file another restraining order. It felt like an impossible battle, but Lasonya refused to give up. She returned to work and saved money again, fixing her car and searching for a new place to live. Just when she thought she had found a fresh start, disaster struck. Larry set up a fake apartment ad to lure her in. Desperate for a place to stay, she went to check it out, only to be ambushed by him. Out of fear for her loved ones and a desperate need to see her son, she went back with him, one more time. But Lasonya never gave up hope. She waited for the right moment and left again with her son, determined to stay hidden. Still, Larry wouldn't let her go. He continued to stalk her, popping up at random places, stealing money from her accounts, and fighting her anywhere he found her. On Valentine's Day, as she drove down the street, she heard a noise in the back seat. When she turned around, her heart sank. Larry had been hiding in her trunk, waiting for her to get into the car. She escaped again, spending nights in hotel rooms just to get a moment of peace, terrified that his next move would be even worse. The people around her didn't understand. To them, it seemed like she kept going back willingly. But in reality, she believed it was the only way to keep others safe. Every time she left, the threats only intensified. She felt utterly alone, trapped in a nightmare with no way out. On February 21st, 2021, that day started like any other quiet day, almost too quiet. Lasonya knew better than to relax, but the exhaustion of constantly living in survival mode was catching up with her. She had barely pulled into her driveway when Larry appeared, his car pulling up beside hers. He leaned out the window, demanding that she come with him. Lasonya had had enough. Every fiber of her being was tired. Tired of running, tired of the threats, tired of the violence. For the first time, she refused. That's when everything changed. Larry pulled out a gun. Without hesitation, he opened fire, unloading the entire clip into her car. The sound of gunfire echoed through the air, shattering the windows and piercing through the metal frame of the vehicle. Lasonya was hit on several places. She was shot 11 times, her body jerking from the impact. Her grandmother and uncle, who were nearby, were caught in the crossfire. They were shot 8 times. Inside the car, Lasonya's 3-year-old son sat frozen in terror, witnessing the entire attack unfold before his eyes. The car was riddled with bullet holes. The chaos seemed to last forever, but it was only seconds before the gun went silent. Larry fled the scene, leaving Lasonya, her uncle, and her grandmother bleeding and broken. Paramedics rushed them to the hospital. Lasonya lay in excruciating pain, her body fighting to survive. Her liver was damaged, and every breath felt like a battle. But through it all, her mind was on her son, his innocent eyes seeing things no child should ever witness. Even as she fought for her life, the fear lingered. Larry was still out there, free, and he wouldn't stop until he found her again. "I'm afraid that he will find me, like he always does," she said later. "I may not survive again." The investigation into the brutal shooting began immediately. Officers arrived at the chaotic scene, securing the area and working quickly to assess the extent of the damage. The blood-streaked pavement and shattered windows painted a grim picture of the violence that had unfolded just moments before. Investigators moved carefully, collecting shell casings, photographing the scene, and interviewing witnesses. Forensics teams analyzed the bullet-riddled car, hoping to find traces of DNA, fingerprints, or any clue that would lead them to the suspect. Neighbors recounted the harrowing sounds of gunfire, describing a black sedan seen fleeing the scene shortly after the attack. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses was reviewed, offering a possible lead on the direction the suspect had taken. It didn't take long for the authorities to focus on one man, her ex-boyfriend, a man with a long history of violence and defiance of court orders. Police reports had documented years of abuse, escalating threats, and multiple violations of restraining orders. His reputation for unpredictability and his previous run-ins with law enforcement made him the prime suspect. But where was he now? After the shooting, he had disappeared without a trace. Officers checked known addresses and questioned his closest associates, but no one seemed to know where he was, or if they did, they weren't talking. Days passed with no sign of him. The police widened their search, issuing a public alert and calling on the community for help. Local news stations aired his photo, warning that he was considered armed and dangerous. Tips began to pour in, but each lead ended in frustration. Every knock on a door, every phone call brought them closer, yet somehow, he always seemed one step ahead. The question remained, was he hiding, planning his next move, or simply watching from the shadows? Investigators knew time was against them. They needed to act fast before he struck again. After the harrowing attack on February 21, 2021, Lasonya Agee faced a daunting path to recovery. Rushed to the hospital with multiple gunshot wounds, she underwent several surgeries to repair the extensive damage. The medical team worked tirelessly to stabilize her condition, but the road ahead was uncertain and fraught with challenges. Beyond the physical injuries, the psychological scars ran deep. The trauma of the attack, coupled with years of abuse, left Lasonya grappling with intense emotional pain. Recognizing the need for comprehensive healing, she engaged in therapy to address the psychological impact. Support groups and counseling became integral parts of her journey, providing spaces where she could process her experiences and begin to rebuild her sense of self. In the midst of her recovery, Lasonya found the strength to reach out to her community. Through a GoFundMe campaign, she shared her story, detailing the abuse she endured and the circumstances leading up to the attack. Her candidness resonated with many, shedding light on the often hidden struggles of domestic violence survivors. The campaign not only aimed to raise funds for her medical expenses and relocation, but also served as a beacon of awareness, encouraging others in similar situations to seek help. The response was overwhelming. Donations poured in, accompanied by messages of support and solidarity. The community rallied around Lasonya, organizing fundraisers and events to assist her in rebuilding her life. This outpouring of support provided not only financial assistance, but also a renewed sense of hope and belonging. Throughout her recovery, Lasonya remained steadfast in her determination. In public statements, she expressed profound gratitude to those who supported her and emphasized the importance of awareness and intervention in cases of domestic violence. Her resilience became a testament to the strength of the human spirit, inspiring many and highlighting the critical need for community support in the face of adversity. Let's listen to one of Lasonya's public statements. It says, "Overcoming something so traumatizing is harder than I ever imagined. I still live in fear because he's still out there, walking free on the streets. There's barely any media coverage, and soon I'll be coming home from the hospital. The purpose of my GoFundMe is to raise awareness, because these situations aren't as rare as people think. We often say, that could never be me, but God has a funny way of proving us wrong. I hope this reaches anyone who might be going through a similar situation and gives you the strength to leave. These things happen far more often than we talk about. People assume it's a thing of the past, but it's just that no one speaks up. I hope this reaches the right people and that justice will be served. Maybe then, I'll finally be able to breathe again without constantly looking over my shoulder, terrified that he'll find me, like he always does. I may not survive again. My liver is damaged. The pain, both physical and emotional, is unbearable. I'll never be the person I once was. All I want is a chance to start over, somewhere safe for my son and me. He knows where I live. He knows every address. I don't want to put my family in danger anymore. If you can help, I would be so grateful. Even if you can't, please share my story to spread awareness. If you're in a similar situation, please leave. Don't wait. His behavior isn't normal, cute, or funny. Don't think it couldn't happen to you, because there are men out here who will hurt you without hesitation. Not everyone is lucky enough to have a second chance. I'm grateful that I do, and that I can tell my story. I hope it helps someone else escape before it's too late. Leaving wasn't easy. It nearly cost me my life. Now, all I want is to come home, heal, and adjust to this new life, however long that takes. Thank you for reading my story. Have you, or someone you know, ever experienced something like this? Let us know in the comments. Your story might inspire someone to seek help. The attack on Lasonya Agee is a stark reminder of a much larger crisis, domestic violence, which affects countless individuals every day. In the United States, nearly 1 in 4 women experience severe intimate partner violence at some point in their lives. In Chicago alone, the prevalence of domestic violence remains alarmingly high, with thousands of incidents reported each year, many of which go unnoticed or unaddressed. Domestic violence is not just a personal issue, it's a community crisis. It leaves physical and emotional scars, disrupts families, and even claims lives. For every survivor who speaks out, there are countless others suffering in silence, afraid to seek help or unsure of where to turn. But resources do exist, and there is hope for those who feel trapped. It's essential for communities to stay vigilant and proactive. If you suspect someone is in danger, reach out, offer support, and encourage them to seek help. Your involvement could save a life. Let this story be a call to action. We all have a role to play in ending the cycle of violence by raising awareness, supporting survivors, and holding abusers accountable. Before you go, if you found this story powerful and believe in spreading awareness, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Together, we can shine a light on these issues and create a safer, more compassionate world for everyone. Lasonya Agee's story is one of unimaginable pain, resilience, and ultimately, survival. What began as a small dispute in 2017 spiraled into a harrowing ordeal marked by fear, violence, and relentless control. For years, she endured abuse that escalated in severity, until it nearly took her life. Despite everything she faced, Lasonya refused to be defined by her trauma. She fought not just to survive, but to reclaim her life for herself and her son. Her journey from victim to survivor is a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Through multiple surgeries, emotional healing, and the unwavering support of those who stood by her, Lasonya has shown extraordinary courage. Her voice, once silenced by fear, now serves as a beacon of hope for others who are still trapped in the shadows of abuse. Domestic violence is real. It can happen to anyone, anywhere, regardless of background. It thrives in silence and secrecy. We must break that silence by educating ourselves, supporting survivors, and recognizing the signs before it's too late. To all those watching, if you or someone you know is in danger, remember that help is available. You are not alone. There are people and organizations ready to support you, guide you, and help you rebuild. Lasonya's courage reminds us that even in the face of darkness, there is always a path toward light. Her story is one of survival, yes, but also one of strength, love, and the unbreakable will to overcome. It's proof that even the most broken parts of our lives can be transformed into a story of triumph and healing. Thank you for joining us in this journey. Please subscribe to our channel and share this story. Together, we can bring greater awareness to domestic violence and help create a future where no one has to suffer in silence.